deep into springtime now, at least where I live, and that means that a lot of you are probably struggling with some of the same things that I always run into this time of year. You know, it's not winter anymore, the weather's warming up, it's getting a little nicer, you actually want to go out and shoot, but what do you get? Gray, cloudy, rainy days, a lot of hit or miss sunshine. So how do you make the most of those gray, dreary days while we have them? The common advice you always hear, and the advice that I've given in the past, is to flip your camera over into black and white mode and just forget about color entirely, you know? Lean into contrast and framing and, you know, other things like that. Personally, I do that all of the time when there's something I don't love about the conditions. Instead of just defaulting to black and white, I wanted to find another option. I wanted to find a JPEG recipe that works with the dreary gray days. It doesn't, you know, fight those dull, overcast tones. All right, my goals here were pretty simple. First off, find a recipe that has a definitive look to it without being completely divorced from my typical style. And second, just to find a recipe that made me want to go outside and shoot even when it's gray and rainy, instead of, you know, being tempted to wait for the next sunny day. The one that I really liked is called Fujicolor Super HGV2. Kind of a mouthful. I've been using it on the Fujifilm X100VI, which is of course a trans 5 sensor. There is an alternate version of this recipe that looks very similar. I will link both of those in the description if you like the test shots and you want to give this recipe a shot for yourself. Okay, I'm really excited to dive into the results from this experiment, so let's do that now. And here in Chicago, there has been no shortage of opportunities to shoot in terrible, flat, gross light this spring. If you know anything about the Midwestern US, weather is let's say hit or miss during this part of the year. But this recipe turned out to not just be good for a cloudy day or decent for flat light, but actually encouraged me to go out. I would go so far as to say that it kind of has saved my experience, my photography experience, shooting on days when the light's not so great. First observation, obviously the base for this recipe is classic neg. That's the whole foundation. In fact, if you didn't want to go through the trouble of loading a JPEG recipe into your camera, it's probably the film sim that I would recommend going with, just out of the default ones that Fujifilm includes. Also, having your white balance set to the auto white priority setting is doing a lot of heavy lifting in this recipe. I think it does a really good job of addressing and kind of combating some of the, you know, muddy, dull grays that you would probably get on days out like this. As I touched on a little bit already, I think the first thing that any seasoned Fujifilm shooter is going to notice about this recipe is just the classic negativeness of it all. I mean, you'll see it in the greens, you'll see it in the shadows, but here I feel like it almost helps introduce some color and some tones where there just aren't really any to speak of. So I like it a lot. I think it's doing, realistically, almost all of the heavy lifting in this recipe. It's got these very pale, desaturated, pastel-ish sort of yellows and oranges throughout. That's another thing that I've noticed quite a bit. Don't love it, don't hate it. It's just kind of one of those things where your mileage may vary. It just kind of depends on, you know, subjectively how you feel about your warm tones being super desaturated like this. There are definitely some sample images that I'm showing today that are a little underexposed, and not in like a creative artsy way, but in a I would bring the shadows up in post kind of way. And that's because I've been using center metering a lot. Some of these moments just happened before I could get the perfect exposure right where I wanted it. Yeah, personally, really huge fan of center metering. I think it can be a really great tool for making quick creative exposure decisions and protecting your highlights, things like that, without going into a fully manual exposure mode. I thought this recipe handled skin tones really well. Not a massive concern in my particular vein of street photography, because I'm usually not doing street portraits or anything where the subject is filling up the frame. I'm a wide shooter, so almost always photographing with a 35 or a 24, something like that. And my subjects tend to be relatively small, so their skin isn't a massive concern of mine. One of the days that I was testing this recipe, the sun was kind of in and out, you know, behind some clouds, and that I felt like was a really great opportunity to show, you know, not only how does it work when it's really flat gray light or when it's raining, but also, you know, what if the sun does come out? Am I gonna have to completely switch my recipe up? And no, honestly, I think the recipe looks really great even when the sun is out. I like it overexposed. I tend to turn it down the other direction when it's more overcast to get those, you know, darker shadows and punchier colors. But yeah, I was really pleasantly surprised with the versatility of this recipe. Loved the images with the sun flares, obviously demonstrating that there is going to be a noticeable green and blue cast to the shadows and midtones, but I really like how the highlights and the brighter tones tend to kind of wash out and remain really neutral. I think that allows those kind of darker colors and the cool tones to shine. Another thing to keep in mind is that this recipe won't work miracles. It's not going to create colors where they just simply don't exist. And unfortunately for street photographers on a gray day, cities also happen to be pretty gray to begin with a lot of the time, or at least, you know, have a lot of neutral tones. So, you know, if your entire scene is just gray on gray on gray with gray dreary light, your image is gonna be gray. This, you know, like I said, is not gonna invent colors where none existed. So I found that this recipe worked really, really great if you give it a little something to work with. Some kind of bright color, maybe an accent from a reflection or a construction cone, you know, a storefront, maybe a detail in somebody's clothing. If you get lucky, some kind of, you know, yellow umbrella, get a classic shot like that, but you know, give it something to work with. The recipe also performed fantastic for some subway shots that it did. If you've been keeping up with Snap and Yap, you'll have seen these already, and they don't really belong in the conversation about flat dreary light because they were done inside in a subway station, but I'm gonna include them anyway just for the sake of demonstrating how versatile I've found this recipe to be. It's actually become one of my favorites and kind of a go-to over the last month, so just wanted to share that as well. Okay, so a little bit of history if you're interested. The Super HG V2 recipe that we're using today was inspired by a film stock that Fujifilm put out in the mid-80s. It was then put to bed and replaced with Superia in 1998, so it is no longer something that you can buy if you are an analog photographer, unfortunately. I did come across a video of somebody trying out the actual film stock, and they were doing so on a cloudy, dreary day. The results weren't particularly close in that example. I felt like their scans came out a little bit warm. It could have been a multitude of different things, not necessarily the film stock itself, but I did find a few other sample scans to compare against over on Lomography's website. Those were uploaded by somebody with the username Opon or Opon21. Going off of what I can see in that YouTube video and also the scans posted on Lomography, this recipe definitely gets close. It's definitely within the realm of the original film stock if that kind of thing is interesting or inspiring to you. You definitely hear a lot more buzz about the various summary, Portra, and Kodak Gold kind of simulations over on Fuji X Weekly. Those are the ones that you always see pictures of, you know, basketball hoops in California, golden hour, really kind of the stuff that made film recipes and JPEGs popular over on the Fujifilm system. But I think that it is worth going into the deep cut, weird experimental recipes and just seeing what's cool and what looks terrible and just having some fun and experimenting. You know, don't get stuck only going with the established looks that everybody shares around Reddit and social media and, you know, so on. It's definitely a more intense and noticeable look than what you're going to be used to seeing if you're shooting with just the built-in simulations. Even classic negative without any of the other adjustments is much more neutral and kind of manageable, so it is definitely applying a strong look. It's one of those situations where if you like it, you're probably gonna just absolutely love it, and if it's not for you, it's not for you. That said, I always recommend shooting RAW and JPEG, so if you get something that you really, really love composition-wise, but you're not super happy with how the film recipe looks on it, or in my case, like I got some underexposed stuff, I've still got the RAW files that I can tweak and make my own in post. Black and white is always a fantastic idea in challenging lighting situations on cloudy, dreary days, but I'm really happy to have another tool kind of, you know, tucked away in those sort of situations. Like I said, the recipe for both the Trans 5 sensors and Trans 4 sensors are gonna be in the description, linked there, so definitely check them out if you liked what you saw today. You know the drill, like, comment, subscribe, it really helps me out. We've done YouTube videos before, but that's gonna do it for me. I appreciate your time, appreciate you watching. As always, thank you very much, and I will talk to you so soon in the next video.